I realize that recently there have been a lot of discussion on people leaving Hong Kong, and this figure released, which was a figure released regularly on the so-called net inflow and net outflow, has stirred up some debate about this figure of 90,000. I do not want to sound defensive, but one has to look into this, how this figure was arrived at. It is a sort of net figure of the number of outflow minus the number of inflow. Yes, there may be an increase in the number of outflows, but you will also notice that we have a significant reduction in the number of people coming in, mainly from the mainland because of the travel restrictions. The number of one-way permit holders, that is mainlanders coming into Hong Kong for family reunion, has significantly reduced because of the travel restrictions. So we are nowhere near the figure used to be about, on average, 150 a day. So that is a factor that one should look into. But never mind those figures. As I said, I don't want to be defensive and to say that there is no person leaving Hong Kong for various reasons. My stance has always been Hong Kong people has freedom of movement. They have a free mind. They could decide where and when to leave Hong Kong or come back to Hong Kong, particularly for families with young children who may want children to have another form of education. So but it is very important for Hong Kong to continue to be able to attract talents and to retain talents in Hong Kong. Of course, also to nurture local talents. And I can assure you that we are doing on every front on nurturing talents. We are continuing to invest in education, and we are even doing more on the STEM education because we do see innovation and technology as an emergent engine of growth for Hong Kong. There are two recent developments which may prove that Hong Kong remains very attractive. As you know, we have a quality migrant admission scheme that bring in talents from all over the world. There used to be a quota of 1,000, which was never used up previously. In my policy address, I think last year, I raised this quota in anticipation of our capacity and ability to recruit more quality migrants. I was told by the committee that there was a significant increase in the successful applicants under the quality migrant scheme. So in other words, more talents are now coming to settle in Hong Kong. The second incident was the scheme that I introduced last year in my policy address about a global STEM professorship scheme. So we are trying to recruit the very promising or very distinguished scientists from all over the world to come to Hong Kong to join us in this innovation and technology development. We have money for only a quota of 100. Universities nomination, this is, by the way, not an application or employment admission scheme. This is by nomination. We receive more than 100 nominations from the UGC-funded institutions, and the first batch of successful nominees exceeded 40 already. And many of them came from very distinguished universities all over the world. So while at the same time people choose to leave Hong Kong, I am pretty optimistic that with our fundamental strengths and the opportunities available upon integrating into the mainland development, particularly the Guangdong, Hong Kong, Macau, Greater Bay Area, we will be able to recruit more talents. So similarly for foreign companies using Hong Kong as a regional headquarters, regional office, or setting up a local office, Hong Kong will continue to be an attractive destination. In recent interactions with the business chambers based in Hong Kong, I have this very strong feeling that the initial anxiety about the national security law has subsided. But you are right that the passing of the anti-foreign sanctions law by the National People's Congress Standing Committee and its likely application to Hong Kong by inclusion in Annex 3 may have generate other anxiety. So I said on this occasion last Tuesday that my advice and sort of opinion to the National People's Congress Standing Committee is for us to go through a local legislative process so that we could be in a better position to explain the purpose of this anti-foreign sanctions law and to take into account Hong Kong's actual situation before we prepare this piece of local legislation. At the moment, we don't have explicit timetable because the NPCSC has yet to make a decision on listing this anti-foreign sanctions law into Annex 3 of Basic Law for application to Hong Kong. But we have started some initial discussion on what the law should look like if there is going to be a piece of local legislation. And by the way, we do have local legislation to implement CPG decisions on UN sanctions. So it is not an entirely alien area that we do not know how to draft the law. But at this moment, I could not give you a timetable. But one will realize that the 6th-term Legislative Council only have 2 more months to go. They will go into prorogue by the end of October to prepare for the general election on the 19th of December. So, in my opinion, it will be an extremely tight timetable to rush a piece of legislation with the necessary consultation with stakeholders within this term of the Legislative Council.